The eclipse portal is open, which means celestial changes are coming your way. Hi, my name is Comet, and welcome to Just Another Magic Monday, particularly your Magic Monday astrological forecast for the week of October 16th to October 22nd, 2023, where we are covering, just as we do every single week here in my Cosmic Corner, what is happening with the planets above us and how we will feel these themes and influences as we navigate life here on our planet. And you might be saying, Haley Comet, last week we had the Libra solar eclipse, next week we have the Taurus lunar eclipse. Please tell me we get a moment to catch our breath. And I wish I could tell you that, but we are officially in the eclipse season window, this faded, essentially portal of time in between eclipses. And I want you to know there are no coincidences this week. You could notice that synchronicities are speeding up. Things are coming into alignment with a quickness. You contemplate that you want to study a subject, and then you walk by a poster that is teaching a class on that very subject. You think of a book that you want to read, and then you go to your friend's house and she's trying to give away a copy of that book. You can feel very led and guided and supported by the universe in noticing these little whispers, these little nudges that are getting us into alignment into where it is that we are destined to go next. But by the same token, you could also be observing just resistances, things that you want to work out, but you're like, why is this so heavy? Why is this so hard? Why is this not aligning? When it comes to eclipses, what is meant to be sharpens into focus, and what is not meant to be gets harder or even can fall away, or that door can feel shut. And I want you to take solace when it comes to eclipse season, when it comes to your universe. I want you to know that you are being so divinely supported and led at this particular moment. I know it's hard to remind yourself of that when you are in the thick of it, the thick of eclipse season, with emotions running high and things that you wanted to work out not working out, and other arenas that you're not sure you're ready for or speeding up into your world. It can feel like so much. So I'm not saying you have to get to the space where you're like, but it's all meant to be. But I want you to know, if something departs your life during eclipse season, if something enters your life during eclipse season, it can be the universe essentially accelerating your timeline to get you into alignment with the person that you were destined to be. And in addition to that window that we're navigating with this week's astrology, we also have Pluto aspects, which can be taking us and plunging us into these depths around where it is that we are transforming, where it is that we are evolving, ways that we don't even recognize ourselves any longer. And I've been speaking about this in terms of all of the eclipses, is that we are in that liminal space. We are in that in-between. We are in that transition. And it can be so concerning when you don't recognize definitions of who it is that you are. When you're like, but I used to always like this, or, oh, but this friendship used to always feel aligned. It can feel so weird when we're starting to feel that contrast around, oh, weirdly, I'm feeling that I'm evolving into a different space. It can almost make you panic, because if you're like, if you're not my best friend, if this isn't my favorite hobby, if this job no longer feels aligned, it leaves you with the question around, who am I? And that certainty around how it is that you are evolving and how it is that you're transforming that has not yet sharpened into focus. Right now, we're just sort of contemplating the contrast. We're sitting in the contrast around what's feeling super aligned and what's not feeling aligned. And we're really clarifying that picture around, who am I becoming? What relationships are feeling evolved? What am I loving learning about? And I will say, with the Mercury Cazimi this week, finally a superior conjunction, there is this energy around the light bulb moment, around maybe you don't have the entire journey mapped out quite yet, but you're having that light bulb moment around, I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm going, but I do know that this is something that's feeling good. I do know that this relationship is really anchoring right now. I do know that this subject is really fascinating me right now. The entire roadmap isn't necessarily laid out with this week's astrology, but we are being guided as far as our headlights are showing. And you can make the entire journey that way, my love. So that is really the ask of this week, around how you can just observe what is coming into illumination, release the path that you thought your life was going to take, and just enjoy the ride of this road trip, getting to where it is that you are meant to go. So of course, my love, just as we do every single week, we will be talking about this energy more in depth, both thematically as well as day by day. Before we do, take a step inside my Cosmic Cafe, a segment on Magic Monday where we cover what it is that we're sipping on to navigate this week's astrology, how it is that we are starting or ending our week. So So let me know below, what are you sipping on? Are you drinking lots of caffeine because these eclipses have you tired and drained and exhausted? Are you drinking something grounding like green tea or maybe lots of water because you're feeling erratic, having difficulty focusing, having difficulty sleeping during these eclipses? Let me know below, and I want to let you know whatever eclipse symptoms that you are feeling, whether it's feeling intensely fearful, intensely tired, intensely all over the place, even intensely inspired. I want to let you know this is an intense time of year, and that is all normal. It's all to be expected, and it's deeply important that you are taking care of yourself truly every week of astrology, but especially during eclipses. It's so important to anchor and ground yourself and to know whatever is coming through, whether it's like too much energy and you need to reel it in, or just feeling super tired and drained. It's absolutely normal during eclipses, and really just listen to the signals of what your body is telling you that you need during this time. So my body was telling me that I need a cup of breakfast blend. We got this from this adorable grocery store when we were in Sedona. I loved it because they actually had a copy of The Mountain Astrologer just in the checkout line. I've never seen that, and that's how I knew. I was like, Sedona is just the coolest. But I impulse bought that coffee just because I liked the llama. Just because I liked the llama on it. He made me happy, and we just need to protect those little bits of happiness and joy that we can muster during eclipse season. There's a lot of darkness, especially when we move into Pluto energy, which of course we will talk about, and it's so important to safeguard those little rituals, those little parts of your day that just cultivate some joy amidst all of it. And today that was my llama coffee, and I decided to pair it with my llama coffee cup. So we have a theme. We have a theme today, and it's making me happy. Like, we can't control everything, and eclipse season makes that deeply apparent to us, but we can control whether or not we take time to just observe the little things that make us happy, like this silly little llama who's on a coffee bag for some reason. And comment below, this is a llama, right? This is a llama. My boyfriend was trying to tell me it's a goat. So I'm drinking a cup of that coffee. It's delightful. And then I foamed some coconut milk. Coconut milk foams the best because it has the highest fat content. So the more you know, if you're in a foamy mood, that is just a good cup of coffee. Now you're telling me I have to drive 7 hours to Sedona every time I want to rebuy this coffee? I'll do it too. For llama coffee, I'll do it. Okay, so if you are new to my channel or new to Magic Monday, Vibe Check of the Week is a segment that we do here in our weekly horoscope series to just give you an overview of the energy that we are walking into with this week's astrology. So what we do is we take all of the energies that we will navigate within this week's astrology, from Mercury entering Scorpio and trining Saturn, from the Mercury Cazimi, Sun conjunct Mercury, to Sun and Mercury squaring Pluto. We take all of that and put that in a cosmic blender, so to speak, and then compare that to a real life scenario. So that even if those terms that I was telling you, superior conjunction and eclipse window portal, like if those are kind of going over your head, we use Vibe Check the Week to essentially demystify the cosmos so that you can begin to sharpen and focus how this energy is going to show up just in your practical act of living your life. So in this week's Vibe Check of the Week, we'll say that you are entering essentially a new job orientation, because like we were talking about with last week's solar eclipse, which as a PS, you'll want to make sure that you check out the eclipse season video to figure out what is shifting within your universe. But as we talked about, that Libra solar eclipse was an ending and a beginning wrapped up into one, because oftentimes the answer to our prayers and to our desires does come to us in the form of a change or of an ending or of a release. And when you are starting a new job but leaving an old job, there is that bittersweet energy where you're excited about what's coming next, but it's also this major departure of familiarity, departure of work besties, departure of that particular era in your life. And I want you to know, when it comes to these eclipses, it's heavy. I'm sure you've been feeling it last week with all the Chiron energy. It's heavy. It can be a lot to essentially metaphorically, or for some of you, like physically walk away from something or realize a door is closing for you and to walk into the unknown. And I want to let you know it's okay to grieve that, whether it's like grieving an old work project, whether it's grieving a relationship, grieving an old way of being within yourself, even grieving what's happening with humanity overall, globally, like having that moment to really sit within that grief for that despair, or that heartache, or that guilt, or that shame, whatever is coming up for you. When it comes to that solar eclipse, sometimes when things are in the South Node, it can bring back things from the past, or it can be a release or a letting go. And I just want to let you know, be gentle with that process. But when it comes to this week's vibe check, it's this energy around you're at a new work orientation. Because like I said with eclipses, sometimes the universe can essentially speed up things that were destined to come into alignment with us. So you might have not felt like you were ready for this job, but it's like, ready or not, you're at this new job, you're around these new people, here it goes. And whether you're grieving something that has departed your life or a little scared stepping into what's coming in, there could be this moment around, am I ready for this? And I just want to let you know you are. Like, the universe, the cosmos knows everything about you, your soul, your aspirations, your talents, your gifts, and what's coming into alignment for you is meant to be. It is destined. And so obviously we're navigating fear with all these Pluto energies. It's like, this is a new environment and I don't know who it is that I am here. You're looking around like, who's going to be a friend? Who's going to be a foe? And then you end up talking with someone. And of course, at first it's very surface level, like, where are you moving from? What have you? And then you figure out that you both are stans of this particular pop star. We'll call her Interplanet Janet, the pop star Interplanet Janet. You both are stans. And if you haven't heard that term before, it's like a mega fan. It's like you guys know everything in her discography. You both went to every show on her tour. And there's some people who are fans and there's some people who are fans who go deep. And I wanted to highlight that because with these Pluto energies, there's something about essentially going deep into something. And isn't that the best feeling? Oh my goodness, as a Plutonian girly myself, and I'm sure that Pluto, my Pluto people out there know this feeling when you figure out somebody else has the same obsession as you and you get to like deep dive and talk about all of the different layers of this random niche pop star. Or if somebody's really into the same book series or really into the same anime or really into astrology, it just opens up the opportunities where you can go really deep. And there's that energy around kind of surface level conversations, and then having someone where you can talk about essentially the intricacies around, what do you think about that song that was never released in the third verse? Do you think it's referring to this song? And talking about the lore. And you know that feeling when you are able to connect with somebody on this deeper level, on something that you are a little obsessive over. And then there's kind of this glimmer around, okay, it's not going to be like my old workplace, right? Because when it comes to eclipses, that door is shut. That door is shut and we're being asked to move forward. So it's like, yes, grieve what is leaving, whether it's a prior version of you, grieve what is leaving, grieve what you're walking away from, grieve what you're feeling, like that is okay. But once you know something, you can't unknow it. Once that door is slammed shut and locked, we can't reopen it. And we have to keep our eye focused on the future, no matter how scary it could be. You could be walking into orientation like, I don't know these people, I don't know this job, I miss my old cafeteria, I knew exactly where I sat, I knew my work besties, I don't know if I'm gonna get along with these people. And it's not that you have all the clarity on if this job is truly gonna be a fit or if this person is truly gonna be your new work bestie. But all you know is that you were able to kind of have this depth and this conversation with this person that allowed you to feel seen. And maybe that quelled some of your fears around sinking into this transformation, because we can only see as far as our headlights, especially right now in eclipses. And certainly with the Pluto energy, it's navigating a lot of fear, navigating a lot of intensity, navigating, for some of us, like navigating a lot of grief. But what I want to say with the Mercury Cazimi superior conjunction, whether it comes through in a conversation, whether it comes through in an idea, whether it comes through in a revelation, there's something that's giving you a little bit of illumination around, I don't know the entire journey, but I know this step. I don't know if you're going to be my work bestie, but I know this conversation feels good. And you're having this deeper approach to life and to this experience, which also Mercury and Scorpio, of course, co-signs. So we will take a deeper dive, a day-by-day look at this week's astrology. I want to let you know that every time that I utter is PDT. So I'm on the West Coast. So you'll want to add the hours, so subtract the hours based on where it is that you are located in the globe. I'll link like a time converter within the comments and let me know if that's helpful, because I could do that for future videos as well. I also have timestamps below that you can jump to a particular day, jump back to a particular day. I also have a gear icon that you can utilize to speed me up, to slow me down, to align with how it is that you process information. I will let you know we're calm, we're fine, everything's fine. But I will say that I'm running incredibly late and I have to get to a wedding very soon. So we will be, you know, sipping our coffee and making our way through the cosmos at a quicker pace. But of course, I'm present. I'm here with you all. This is my favorite part of my week. It makes me so happy when I read comments of people saying this is their favorite part of the week, because I'm like, me too. Like, I look forward to sitting in the cosmic corner, sipping a cup of coffee next to my candle, just chit-chatting about the cosmos. So I'm really happy to be here, and I don't want you to feel rushed, but just letting you know today might be at a quicker pace so that I don't miss the wedding. So on Monday, October 16th, the moon is in Scorpio, opposing Jupiter and Uranus. And so when it comes to Monday, Moon Day, I want to let you know that we are still in the recovery of the Libra solar eclipse, which I would love to hear below. How was that for you? What came up? Sometimes our eclipse story makes itself very apparent to us. Sometimes it comes through within a job offer, right? Like within the vibe check. Sometimes it comes through within someone breaking up with us. Sometimes it comes through around a letter from our landlord. Like sometimes it comes through in this very shocking, essentially, event that's letting us know, hey, a new chapter is unfolding here, right? Ready or not, here the new chapter comes. But sometimes it comes through in a very subtle way around you meet someone random that your friend introduces you to. You brainstorm with a friend an idea of a future business that you guys want to start together. Like definitely journal and note what is coming up within your universe, because sometimes eclipses are very much like, here I am, here's your story, here's your work. And sometimes they're kind of whispering, here I am, here's your story, here's your work. So you'll want to pay attention. So as it comes with Monday's astrology, the moon is emphasized, and the moon is in her fall, the sign of Scorpio. And again, still in that recovery stage of the Libra solar eclipse, especially if it was impactful on you. Like, please be gentle with yourself, because on Monday we could be really feeling our emotions intensely, and certainly feeling our emotions of depth and intimacy, but we can also be feeling the intensity of emotions of our sadness and our grief and our loss. Just with the moon opposing Jupiter, there could just be this energy of expanding what it is that we're feeling. And I would definitely highlight, be gentle with yourself in the extremes of what it is that you are feeling. And again, if a cup of llama coffee is making you happy, do that. Like sometimes you have to be fierce about protecting your joy or protecting your peace or having things within your life that do give you a sense of control. Because of course, with the moon translating Scorpio, there could be this energy around, I feel out of control, I don't know what's happening with my life, I don't know who I am, I don't know what my life is turning into, and just feel like everything is spiraling out of control. Hone in on the little bits that you do have control over. I have control that this morning I can wake up and make myself a cup of llama coffee. I have control over handling these tasks and these errands, and giving yourself whatever brings you back into balance. Because my love, like eclipse season makes it so apparent to us how little control we have. That control is an illusion, okay? And that can be terrifying, right? Especially with the Pluto energy, or it can be in a certain instance freeing, and just honing in on whatever gives you that illusion of control. Whether it's, I don't know what's happening in the big picture, but I know I'm doing these tasks. And just being intentional about maximizing those little moments, even if they're so silly, like a cup of llama coffee. It's so silly, so inconsequential, especially with Pluto sharpening into focus what really matters within life and what is falling away and what is sharpening into focus. All of these intense and even existential feelings that some of us can be grappling with this week. It can feel silly. What's a cup of coffee in the grander scheme of things? But within this human experience, suffering is inevitable. It's inevitable. We cannot minimize negative experiences. All we can do is maximize positive ones, where it's like, okay, I don't have control over these arenas of my life. What I do know is that I have this cup of llama coffee, and then I sat outside and I looked at the sunshine, and the neighborhood cat came and said hello, and that I hugged my friend and we drank tea together. Like these little moments of just savoring that joy and just really feeding your spirit that, because I want to highlight that when we consider the traditional implication of eclipses, think about it. Like in ancient times, how concerning that would be to see an eclipse and like not know exactly why that was occurring. That would be so scary. And the earliest record of eclipses came from China, and it simply stated, this is all it said, the sun has been eaten. Like that would be so concerning to have the light that we depend on essentially darkened. Sometimes with eclipses, we can feel like the light, the goodness of humanity is not there. We can feel like everything is evil and that the light is gone. And I want to let you know, if you are navigating that, allow yourself to feel those feelings. I'm not taking that away from you. Overall, it's a very, very intense time. And that's a real contemplation. Like even in ancient times, they really believe there's so many different interpretations, but the common thread through all of them is that oftentimes eclipses were seen as this time in which the light was taken. And understanding that, we have to be intentional around cultivating it within our world and cultivating it within our community and within our friendships. And it's not that we necessarily still align with that form of viewing eclipses. Like we know the sun's not being eaten, but if you look at the traditional implications of eclipses and just the folklore around it, you'll just see this common piece around feeling like the light is being suffocated. Like a lot of people thought demons, squirrels. There's a lot of different interpretations. It's actually a fascinating deep dive. If anybody with Mercury square Pluto wants to go on a journey reading about that, it's a great week for it. But what I want to highlight is that a common thread is that there's this energy around the light has been taken. And we can feel like that. With eclipses, things get dark. Things are heavy. Astrologically, globally, things feel so heavy that there can be these questions and these feelings that you're reckoning with around, is humanity evil? Are we cursed? Is there any good out into the world? Is there any good ahead for me or for my community or for my people or what have you? And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying a cup of llama coffee or saying hello to the neighborhood cat or taking a walk with a friend. I'm not saying that takes away any of that. But when we consider this energy around the light being taken, we have to step in to fiercely call it upon ourselves, to be the creators of our own sunshine. And if it's not coming through within big moments, sometimes a great place to start is just little things around, okay, I'm really going through it, but I'm looking forward to making my cup of llama coffee tomorrow, or I'm really going through it, but I'm so grateful to have my pets. Like those little bits that just give you something to believe in, something that gives you a sense of hope, whether for your world or for humanity overall. And on Monday, I want you to maximize those small bits of joy and really cultivate them intentionally and allow it to give you some semblance of control and some semblance of peace, because that does have a ripple effect. It is not selfish to prioritize those little things that give you joy and give you happiness. It could be a ripple effect for your friendships and for your community and for this world overall. So on Monday, safeguard your sunshine. Take your magic wand and create your sunshine. It can come through in little pleasures of life. It can come through in relishing big things in life, whatever it is. With Moon opposite Jupiter, look for reasons, look for proof that love is alive, look for proof that humanity is good, look for proof that there is joy to be found and good experiences to be had. And that evening is when the Scorpio moon opposes Uranus. So to a practical level, bringing it back to focus, I would say on Monday, if it's available to you, it would be a great day to get things done, to continue to lean into Jupiter energy around being optimistic, maybe using the Scorpio deep dive energy to get obsessed in these topics, that your mind isn't wandering to darker places. That's going to be important this week. Of course, we'll chat about it. But with the moon opposite Uranus, you can find that you feel very restless at night. You can find emotionally you feel quite volatile. Maybe something unexpected happens that makes you feel out of control with the bigger scheme of things. And again, breathe, bring yourself back into what it is that you can control. So if you get news right before bed, be like, okay, I can't deal with that right now. I'm going to deal with this tomorrow. What I can control right now is saying goodnight to my kids and doing my skincare and breathing before I go to sleep and just handling those little tasks to bring you some semblance of coming back into your body. And this is super random, but I just want to say, does anybody else get zoomies? Okay, like I know some of you have pets who get zoomies or kids who maybe get zoomies, but zoomies is like when you get this burst of energy right before you go to sleep. I get it all the time. I'll be exhausted, and then right when I'm doing my skincare, I just get so silly and I just get so energetic and hyper, and I'm like, why is this happening now? But anyways, we call it the zoomies, and it just feels like Monday might be kind of a zoomy night where it's like you might have been drained, all Monday, and then at night you're like super hyper and super energized, maybe even inspired, honestly, with the Uranus energy. When I think of Uranus, I always think of electricity, and I think of conduits. So again, with the moon opposite Jupiter early in the day, seeking where it is that you can be a conduit for joy, or conduit for beauty, or conduit for gratitude, whatever emotion you can reach for. And then with moon opposite Uranus, where it is that you can be a conduit for new ideas or for genius. Like, it is worth saying that eclipses, there's a lot of energy. It's a lot of emotions. It's a lot of intensity. Some people could be feeling it in fear. Some people can be feeling it in anxiety. Some people can be feeling it in exhaustion. Others can be feeling it in terms of creativity and inspiration. So find something that you can kind of put energy into, that you could be a conduit for either good things, expansion with Jupiter, or originality, inventiveness with Uranus. So on Tuesday, the 17th, early in the morning at 4:20 a.m. to be exact, PDT, the Scorpio moon trines Neptune in Pisces. How appropriate that lands at 4:20 a.m. If you know, you know. But when it comes to that, definitely paying attention to what's coming through within your dreams. Again, looking around at your universe and things that you would typically brush off around, oh, that's so random that I dreamt about that person. I haven't dreamt about them in a long time. That can be something you can shrug off, or it could be something you could be like, how interesting that occurred during this eclipse portal. What could it mean? Digging deeper into it. And then the Scorpio moon will sextile Pluto in Capricorn. It does go void after this point. So I will say the first part of Tuesday may not be the most productive to get all things done and do all the things and get it all done. And so the moon will be void from 8:44 a.m. to 12:36 p.m., which is the point that moon enters Sagittarius. And what I want to say is, with the Scorpio moon trining Neptune and sextiling Pluto in Capricorn, there feels to be something coming through on Tuesday around doing something to regenerate your power stores. This is such a pivotal part of Scorpio energy, is that it's very regenerative, and that, yes, it navigates intense extremes in life, but it can always bounce back. It's very, very resilient. So if there is a rejection or something of that nature that came in during the Libra solar eclipse, Tuesday astrology feels like an intentional time to essentially call your power back, or call your energy back, or pour into yourself. And with the Scorpio moon trining Neptune in Pisces, it just feels like an energy around remembering how strong and how powerful that you are. And there's something very soulful about it with the Scorpio moon trining Neptune in Pisces. And for some of you, maybe you navigated like some sort of rejection during the Libra solar eclipse. Maybe something didn't work out that you were hoping was going to. Maybe there was some painful realizations or something of that nature. And with the Scorpio moon trining Neptune and sextiling Pluto, it's basically like, Libra solar eclipse, I took a L, but I bounced back. Because that's what I do, because that's who I am. And like honoring that inner phoenix within you, like that's going to be a theme this week with the harsh Pluto energy, is embracing our own evolution and embracing our own transformation, because that's why it's considered, Scorpio is one of the strongest signs of the zodiac. It's not strong in that it defeats every single opponent. It's strong because it bounces back. It's fixed water. It stays in the game. And so it's basically asking you, wherever it is that you are showing up, wherever it is that you are working towards, it's reminding you that, yes, sometimes, with Mars square Pluto and with these Pluto aspects, sometimes there can feel to be bigger forces that are keeping us down or telling us no, or the systems that be that are telling us no. But there's this like regenerative energy around, they got me once and they're not going to get me again. And there's something very big picture about the trine to Neptune around contemplating, okay, within the bigger scheme of things, it doesn't matter that situationship didn't work out, or in the bigger scheme of things, that door closed for something else to open. Again, only walk down that path if you are ready to. But what I will say with the Scorpio moon trining Neptune in Pisces, it's just that energy when you begin to kind of take a step out of the intense emotions that you're feeling to kind of tune into the bigger picture of things, and to remember that you are strong and that you are powerful and that you've got this and you have resilient codes within you. So to a practical level, the moon's void, so I would not recommend necessarily working during that time or doing anything too terribly important. If you do have to work, I would, do one of these, pretend to be typing something, but not really, or just handling mundane matters. But if the space is available to you, do something where you get lost in something else. Like you go for a hike, you get away from your phone. You go for a hike, you get away from your phone. You do something where you lose yourself within a different environment, that you dull the noise of the outside world so that you can hear that voice within you that's like, you've got this, keep going, get back up. You took an L, but we're bouncing back. You are strong, you are powerful. Like sometimes you have to remind yourself of that intentionally, and also tuning into what it is that you want. And if you're familiar with me, if you're familiar with my work, you know that I typically am not a strong advocate for, manifesting during eclipses, because it's typically a time in which what is meant to be will come and what is not meant to be will fall away, right? But I do want to say it's a great time to, launch those rockets of desire, like going for a hike and just thinking about, oh my gosh, wouldn't this be so cool? And like really clarifying what it is that you want based on the emotions that you want to feel, because you don't want the thing. You want what you think that thing will make you feel. And Scorpio is an energy that really bases its life off of that experience of aliveness and vitality. And so it's not so much a concentrated manifesting effort, but with the Scorpio moon trining Neptune, just sort of daydreaming and playing in the what could be. Maybe if a door was closed for you, what could come into focus? Or where am I feeling called to reinvent myself? Or where am I feeling led? What synchronicities are coming up that are sort of hinting where your rebirth essentially awaits? And then a little after 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday, the moon enters Sagittarius, which is this big picture vision. And typically this is a lunation that's very optimistic, it's very honest, it's very free-spirited, but it's welcomed by a square to Saturn on Tuesday afternoon, which could be making you feel a little stuck. You could be feeling a little dejected. You want this freedom, you want this new start, you want this truth. And with the square to Saturn, that can feel out of your reach at this moment. You want the freedom to be able to start your new chapter, but you're feeling these responsibilities from your last chapter. Emotionally, things could be feeling a little hard, a little heavy. And I want to make this clear because this is Magic Monday. And the reason we call it that is because I believe through the great astrology, through the challenging astrology, we always have an opportunity to be the magician of our universe and to create magic with what is being given to us. But I will say the crafting and the spell making of magic some weeks is easier than others. And this is a week in which we have to be a little bit more diligent in it. And there can be this energy around the Sagittarius moon so deeply wanting to be optimistic with the square to Saturn, just feeling suffocated by the way that things are. Like I said, in the morning time, whether you're on a hike or with a friend chatting about it, or even just at work fantasizing, dreaming about what could be, with the Sagittarius moon squaring Saturn, it's like, oh, I so want to travel, but I can't with the way that things are right now. Or I so want to feel free, but I have all these responsibilities. Like there's something kind of hindering the daydream, just making us feel very suffocated, very trapped within this current experience or the responsibilities that encase us. And to that, I just want to say this too shall pass. And there's also something coming through just with the Sagittarius moon also building to square Venus in Virgo. There's also something coming through around, I do so much for everybody else. Where is there time to be enough for me? Like there could be this kind of battle between how it is that you feel versus what is feeling good versus where your responsibilities lie. That is sort of just making you feel like you're doing a lot of things and you're doing all of them not that well. And I just want you to be gentle with yourself. You have a lot of plates spinning. It's a lot of pressure to try to be the perfect partner and the perfect employee and the perfect father, the perfect mom and the friend. And there's just a lot that we are maintaining, and there feels to be an energy where you could be feeling scattered and feeling like you're not fulfilling any of these roles particularly well. And again, with Venus and Virgo, you could be being quite hard on yourself about that. But remember to breathe. Every single day is an opportunity to show up differently, and striving. Like I said, it's a little bit of a muscle this week, but really striving with the Sagittarius moon energy around what is going well, what is feeling expansive, what is feeling exciting at this moment. On Wednesday, the 18th, the Sagittarius moon will square Venus in Virgo, and this happens around 4:15 a.m. PDT. And this is sort of this battle, because again, Sagittarius moon wants to feel free, and Venus in Virgo is kind of in its ear saying, well, you can't exactly travel the globe and feel spontaneous and say yes to all the plans when there's so many dishes to be done, there's so many chores to handle, and you have to do this, and you made that mistake at work yesterday and you can't have that happen again. So there's this clash between you around, there's one hand where you're like, I'm just a human once and I really want to seize these experiences and go to what excites me. I didn't come to this planet, I don't think, to do all the dishes and do them perfectly well or what have you. So it could be this clash around how it is to handle and maintain the mundane aspects of life while also allowing that restless, adventurous spirit to exist within you. And there could be that clash, as I highlighted, around trying to do all the things and feel like you're not doing any of them particularly well. Because again, it's a very loose mutable T-square, which mutable T-squares can often make us feel kind of like all over the place, erratic. And let me know in the comments if you guys have also been experiencing this. I've had the hardest time focusing. Oh my gosh, I just feel like my attention has been all over the place, and I just feel like that is the vibe when it comes to Wednesday's astrology, in which you might be kind of doing this project and then you get bored and then do this and then you feel like you have to go do this, and it's like everything's getting half done. That's the vibe, because again, Sagittarius moon wants to graze and explore, but it's getting kind of like pulled back by Venus and Virgo, like focus, do the thing. But then the Sagittarius moon's like, what about this? So it's an interesting energy that you're sort of navigating in the morning time. But then in the evening time, the Sagittarius moon trines Chiron in Aries, which is a reminder to prioritize healing in whichever way that looks like, whether it's healing by way of feeling connected to the bigger picture via something like astrology, deep diving into your placements or understanding your numerology, like these pieces that uncode the puzzle of our souls and why we came here. And that can feel so healing to feel seen. Like, I think that's something that's so beautiful about astrology, is that oftentimes those who discover astrology are navigating a time of not feeling seen and understood by the people around them or by their upbringing or what have you, and how fascinating it is to feel truly seen and understood, and that the way that we are is okay. Which I also love how that kind of threads into the vibe check, because again, when we find someone where it's like, oh my gosh, we could talk about this niche interest, right? Something that I kind of deep dive into, and we can connect on this and harmonize. It makes us feel a little less weird. It allows us to feel seen, because we've been doing a lot of work just with the Libra solar eclipse around really releasing old ways of showing up and relating. I loved the comment that I read, and just so you know, guys, I always read all the comments. I'm a Pisces, so I reply back telepathically. Hopefully you're getting my replies. Okay, I'm sending them here. But someone had commented that oftentimes these people-pleasing tendencies that we were talking about last week, not only does it leave us in a place around feeling used and abandoned, but it also really impacts our relationships, because it's very hard to genuinely connect with somebody who is people-pleasing, right? Because it's sort of like this false veneer, and they can be harboring resentment, which is not conducive for connection. So some of us are dealing with some letting go of certain behaviors in connections, or maybe even certain people or painful cycles that have continued within a particular relationship. But I want to bring the focus wider and just say it's Libra season. Even though the South Node's in Libra and a lot of us are letting go of old ways of relating or old ways of keeping the peace at the expense of our own integrity, Libra season reminds us that we are here to connect, and how deeply gratifying it is to feel seen, to feel understood, whether that's through mechanisms such as astrology or through another person. We could talk about this niche pop star and truly feel seen in some way, truly have that energy to dive into, because I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I just find small talk so draining. And when I find that I have a common interest about something that I've hyper fixated over, oh my gosh, it just lights me up. It's so fun to be able to talk with somebody else around what it is that I'm obsessed with or deep diving into. It's so gratifying, and it's rare. It's rare to find that depth. And I think a lot of the patterns of what we're shedding is kind of a more shallow or surface level or fake way of relating, to embrace this authentic way of relating, which, keep in mind, given the vibe check, if people hear you guys talking about this niche pop star, Inner Planet Janet, people are going to be like, they're so weird. Why do they like their music so much? It's so trash, or what have you. They don't get it. And that's the thing. Few people in life will truly get it. But when you find that resonance, it's so special. And maybe it's via a community online or via a mutual friend where you guys could just nerd out and your guys' weirds sync up, right? It's rare. It's rare. For my fellow Plutonians, like, it can feel very lonely sometimes being a Plutonian, because you're truly not for everybody. And people can think of you as too intense. The worst experiences happens to me all the time, because I'm Plutonian, so I do have a tendency to get very obsessed with things is when someone like casually mentions something and then I go in like, oh my gosh, and did you know this and this and this? And then you just see that the level of like how much of fans we are differs and I'm being too much and it's like creepy how much I know. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me reel it back. Too much? Okay, got it. But what I want to say is that if you're Plutonian, and all of us as we're navigating this week's astrology, there's an energy of contrast around at this whole orientation. I'm really not clicking with people. I'm really just kind of having small talk, but there's one person that I can go really deep and I feel seen. And you have to just kind of follow those breadcrumbs of the people who get it, who get you. And even though there's not a Pluto aspect on Wednesday, I'm speaking to this just because the Sagittarius moon trining Chiron in Aries, it has asked us to generate that healing energy within ourselves around whatever it is that makes us feel interconnected within the bigger scheme of things, whatever it is that gives us a sense of faith within the big picture. And like I said, sometimes it flows in and sometimes we have to intentionally cultivate it, intentionally take the night to say, I'm going to dive into my numerology books, or I'm going to go out of my way to make plans with this person because I know I feel more optimistic within their presence. Whatever it is, I just want to say Wednesday is a great day to dedicate to your healing journey, whether that's on a bigger scale or a smaller scale. And paying attention to those moments of resonance, those moments that you do feel seen or feel supported or things within the bigger picture make sense. Because again, it's not that suddenly you're healed. Suddenly all of those feelings around feeling too much at the orientation and feeling awkward and not feeling like you could connect with anyone and having a lifetime of experiences where you felt different than other people, you felt like you couldn't connect with other people, what have you. It's not saying that those experiences wipe all that away, but there is something healing to be like, finally someone gets it, or gets me, or wants to talk about the topics that I'm interested in, or when I dive into this modality, I do feel seen, I do feel heard. It's like those little glimmers following our arrow around what's exciting us at this moment, what's making us feel seen at this moment, what's giving us faith at this moment. On Thursday, the 19th, so firstly, I want to let you know that this is the day of the Mercury Cazimi. So this is also known as Sun conjunct Mercury, and you might be saying, Haley, Comet, didn't that happen last month in Virgo? And to that I say, stars for you. You're paying attention. You've been watching your Magic Monday or following up with your astrology. Absolutely. This is the second one that we've had. And the difference is this. The first one was an inferior conjunction because Mercury was retrograde, and this one is a superior conjunction because now Mercury is direct and passing the sun. And when we say Mercury Cazimi, the word Cazimi means in the heart of the sun. And essentially the two planets fuse together and become one. So sun, which is ego and identity, and Mercury, which is thought processes, fuse, which oftentimes can create light bulb moments, ahas, epiphanies as it relates to the journey of you, the person and the soul that is you. And I will say, again, you don't need to force anything with eclipses, but if you've been waiting for a time to kind of make an announcement around, here I am, this is what I've been working on, this is what I've been working on, this can be an excellent time to essentially allow that to be seen to a bigger picture. Again, no one force or rush a launch. All I'm saying with Sun Mercury can be a great time for announcements or for sharing what's on your heart, what's on your spirit, what's moving through you. Because again, this week it's important to highlight there's this energy around finding resonance with like people who get it. And it's like obviously with this conjunction squaring Pluto, not everybody will get it. But the people who get it will get it. And you just showing up within your authenticity around this is moving through me, or creating art that's in alignment with where it is that you are moving through, or sharing something that's deep and heartfelt to you. You never know who needs to hear that, because obviously all of our journeys are so different and so nuanced, and some of our eclipse stories are so big, and for some of us it's taking place in very minor ways. But I want you to know, like, astrology is so powerful because there's ways that we are all connected and experiencing common themes in different ways. And if you've ever experienced that energy where it's like a creator online or a friend of yours says something and you're just like, yes, that's exactly how I feel too, it makes this world feel like so much less of an isolating place. Because not to get too deep into it right now, because like I said, I'm running late for a wedding. But I will say with Chiron and Aries overall, I think there is a lot of loneliness right now. I really think this transit is sort of linked to this theme of loneliness. And those moments around you just sharing what's on your heart and on your spirit, you never know how somebody else needed to hear that. To be like, wow, you're feeling that too. It makes you feel so much less alone to just have those humans where it's like, oh, finally, like you get it, you get me. And I also say with Libra energy, like sacred mirrors. universe, like paying attention to who's inspiring you at this moment, what your dear friends are reflecting back to you. Because I do want to highlight a difference between this Cazimi and last month's Cazimi. So last month's Cazimi, Mercury was in exaltation, and this week now Sun is in its fall. So it's not the strongest position of the Sun. Last month with Mercury in exaltation, it was a little bit, stronger, more mercurial. But what I will say, the gift of having Sun in its fall, again, the luminary of ego and identity and the I am energy in a position where it is not dignified, it kind of creates this space where we get to play in the possibility around, I don't exactly know who it is that I am, which again, with the square to Pluto, sometimes that could be scary around. I don't recognize myself. What is my life turning into? Where are these desires coming from? I never knew I was going to be someone who wanted this or was going to do this or had to make this choice or what have you. And that can feel scary, but it can also feel exciting around, oh, who will I be? And sometimes when you're in that space around, I don't know what I'm doing or who I am, sometimes it's helpful to kind of bounce your energy off of others, talk to other people about their journeys and just observe what that reflects to you, like the concept of sacred mirrors around who it is that you're feeling inspired by, who it is that you're feeling seen by can be reflecting a part of you back to you. So just observing as well as the messages that are coming through on Thursday, someone telling you something about yourself, like, hey, you're really good at this, and you like kind of clicking into awareness around, am I? Last week we were saying how other people can't necessarily determine your value. That does have to come from within, but sometimes from your vantage point, you don't see the light that you radiate. And sometimes other people can have a compliment that allows you to see this whole new component of your magic that you didn't even know was there. So what I want to say on Thursday is paying attention to the ahas, the insights, the epiphanies that may come through in a podcast where you listen to something and you're like, oh my gosh, this was exactly what I needed to hear right now. Or you've been contemplating a career change and then someone mentions the very job that you've been contemplating. Or maybe you just journal and then you realize something to a bigger level, like, oh my gosh, like this is a pattern that I'm moving away from. Whatever it is, it can come in a big way or a small way, but there's a lightning bulb, there's a moment, there's an aha. And this happens late on Thursday. So some of you, based on where you're located in the world, may feel this early Friday, but I want you to look out for this Cazimi energy and this energy around perhaps allowing yourself and your message to be heard, but also listening to others. Because again, them sharing their message might have wisdom for yourself as well. And so for lunar aspects on Thursday, the beginning part of the week feels like the part where you're just kind of like chatting with a work bestie or at orientation, just kind of like gabbing with other people. Like it's not very productive. We see this with the Sagittarius moon squaring Neptune, but it can be helpful around finding connection with the Sagittarius moon sextiling Sun and sextiling Mercury. And again, sometimes that connection comes through in big ways around, oh my gosh, we both have this mutual interest, and now I can geek out with you about this TV show or about astrology or about whatever else that we've uncovered. But sometimes it just shows up in little ways, just being able to connect to the humanity in people, because as I highlighted, it's an intense time and you never know what people are moving through. And sometimes those small, essentially connections, those small conversations, being at the cafeteria and saying, hey, we're both eating turkey sandwiches. Cool. Like, or hey, we're both wearing red lipstick today. It looks amazing on you. Like, you never know how these little conversations, how these little connections can have ripple effects, truly. And then the moon will be void at 12:02 until 6:55 p.m., which, as I highlighted, it's not the most productive day. Like, it really feels like one of those days. Let me know if you guys ever have those. When I worked in the office, sometimes you just have those days where you're just not so inclined to work and you just want to chit chat with your coworker about their date last night, and you kind of want to chat about this, and you're kind of texting your friend. I'm just letting you know Thursday might not be the most productive. And then the moon enters Capricorn that evening, which kind of shifts us into high gear around essentially ambition and career and what it is that we are building, especially with the Capricorn moon sextile Saturn. You might find you get a burst of energy, like you kind of weren't so productive during the day, but you get a burst of energy around, okay, I've got to handle all the things, I've got to build my dreams, or energy around, oh my gosh, I wasted the whole day, now I've got to do some work and handle all the things, or maybe even plan or outline. There's a big theme coming out about that, especially this weekend with Mercury trine Saturn. We'll chat about that. But again, it's a waxing moon. So observing what is sharpening into focus. Like, again, sometimes Pluto energy can have a lot of contrast, or in contrast around, ooh, that is not what I want, or ooh, that door was closed, or ooh, this is not feeling good for me. This is not serving me. So paying attention to what clarity that contrast is giving you, right? Because contrast does bring clarity. When when you observe what's not working within your world, you get more clues around what will work. With the waxing moon, we're starting to get signs and synchronicities and inspirations and messages around what is coming into focus for us, what is aligning for us. We have a full moon on the North Node next week, right? So we're starting to get clues around what the next chapter will have in store for us. So just really on Thursday with that Mercury Cazimi building and the moon sextiling Saturn, definitely pay attention to what you're feeling inspired to build or create, the legacy you want to leave, or the people you want to reach with the Mercury Cazimi. On Friday, the 20th, you should be feeling more productive. So if you kind of had a not so productive midweek, Friday should be an energy of like kind of clicking into high gear around wanting to handle the tasks, handle the errands, handle the to-dos, things of that nature. And what I want to say about Friday is that it feels like that energy when you stay at a party for too long. And what I mean by that is that we have a Capricorn moon all day, which I should highlight. It's not dignified there. The moon does not necessarily enjoy being in Capricorn, as the moon is about our inner emotions and Capricorn is about our outer prestige. So there's a little bit of a mismatch. So again, we could be emotionally looking to satiate ourselves through accomplishments and to-dos and things of that nature. And it's important to remind yourself your value is not dictated by your outer accomplishments, and your self-care doesn't need to be earned. Like, that's a continual reminder with Capricorn moon, and to be gentle on yourself. So the moon is in Capricorn all day. So it's not comfy there, but it is making all of these lovely aspects. It creates this grand Earth trine in the cosmos because Venus trine Jupiter is building, which will exact the following day. So there's good feelings. Like at work, you could be feeling more social, you're getting tasks done, but it's feeling good, you're feeling connected, you're feeling aligned, things are coming together. And that's why it reminds me of being at a party where it's like, it's fun, it's aligned, things are flowing, but then there's a moment that you need to leave the party. Do you get what I mean? Like, there's a moment when it starts to get weird. Like, if you stay too long, if you go to the after party, it gets weird. It gets weird. You gotta know when to leave. You gotta know when to leave. And like, that's sort of the vibe on Friday because we have Mercury squaring Pluto at 5:51 p.m. So there just could be this feeling where it's like, okay, well, we had a great day at work, so I'm in the mood to want to go to happy hour with you all. There could just be an energy where it could get kind of weird. Being at the happy hour and somebody is deeply talking about their conspiracy theories, and they're not conspiracy theories that you think are grounded in reality. And so you're just sitting with your poke nachos, just like, okay, I'm so glad I came to this happy hour. Listen, I'm not saying you shouldn't socialize, but all I'm saying is be intentional around who it is that you choose to socialize with. And just because something is feeling good doesn't mean that it'll continue to be feeling good. You gotta know when to leave the party. Let me say that. You gotta know when to leave the party. So diving into Mercury square Pluto, what I mean by it could get weird. Pluto can be very paranoid. It can be very suspicious. Where you're eating poke nachos with your coworkers after work and you're opening up about your relationship fiasco, and then you have a moment where you're like, ooh, should I be telling these people this? Like, should I be telling my coworkers this? Did I overshare a little bit? And with the Pluto energy clicking in, being kind of like paranoid around, oh, did I share so much? And for some of you, you may not be feeling this grand Earth trine energy, this sensual, abundant, productive, prosperous flow of energy. You might be sitting in that Mercury square Pluto energy, which is obsessing and ruminating over our fears, over the worst case scenario, feeling on edge as you navigate the day. And as someone who has Mercury square Pluto within my birth chart, I want to share a couple of ways that I've navigated this energy, because Pluto can be plunging us into the abyss, into the darkness around the worst case scenario. We're going down a rabbit hole of information, convincing ourselves that we have this rare disease because we have a headache, or convincing ourselves that our partner is going to break up with us, and just getting into this spiral, which is taking us deeper and deeper, darker and darker. And so you may be within that space on Friday, but I want to share some tips on how you can either pull yourself out of it or put yourself into a good mental space to really leverage the highest vibration of Pluto. One of the ways that's been super helpful for me is I literally keep a running note within my phone. You can journal on it or anything of that nature around past, essentially ungrounded fears that you've had. Like for me, when I'm in that space and convincing myself that this horrible thing that I've imagined within my mind is going to occur, I look at my notes app and it gives me a sense of peace, because I remember the time in 2016 when I was convinced this would happen. And I remember the time in 2018 that literal weeks of my life was absorbed into something that was never the case. Like for me, reviewing those fears and how much energy I put into it and freaking out about it sort of takes me out of the spiral and just observe. This is also one of these notes. It's a pretty long note. I'll highlight that. So when I get into that space around freaking out around how this is going to be the case, reviewing that notes app and reviewing the times that I've convinced myself that this was going to be the case, that now, years later, clearly it was not the case whatsoever, reminds me that this will be a fear that I'm going to put in the notes app. And even if the worst case scenario were to occur, why would I waste my precious time and energy worrying about it and freaking out? It honestly does not do a lot of good. So it's really challenging when you're already in that space to pull yourself out of it. But for me, that's a technique that I've utilized that helps me at least create a little distance from it and just thinking, hey, this will just be added to the notes app. Like I was in this same state of panic in all of these other instances within this note, and none of them came into existence. And it helps me give myself that calm or that peace around this will be something in the notes app too, and this will not be the case. And the next piece that's been so essential for me as a Mercury square Pluto native, and I want to share this with you knowing that we're moving into this energy this Friday, give your mind some brain food. Give your mind something that you can obsess about that's more constructive than destructive. I know in navigating my birth chart, I cannot be still. I cannot do nothing. I cannot allow my mind to be at rest. Rest, I have never known her. Who is that? For me, navigating that energy means keeping my mind very busy. Because for me, when my mind is idle, it can manifest as the worst case scenario about the Pluto energy, which is obsessing and ruminating over something destructive that doesn't really add to the quality of life. So what I do is I just give my brain a lot of food, a lot of information, a lot of books, a lot of articles, whatever it is, at least something that I feel like I'm constructively at least gaining some knowledge rather than obsessing and deep diving into Reddit threads and deep on WebMD or wherever else my obsessions take me that really doesn't do any good. Like when I think about how I've leveraged that Pluto energy, just the good that it's done in deep diving into topics like astrology. Like this channel, this study is a result of that Mercury square Pluto energy around just needing to obsess over something or learn about something so that I don't let my mind wander over into the abyss or into the darkness, which is, it's honestly apt to do with the Pluto energy. But it doesn't go there if I give myself lots of brain food. If I'm diving into topics that interest me, obsessing over a TV show or a movie or wherever that Mercury square Pluto obsession is taking me into, it's really yielded so much good within my life, from my study of astrology to honestly my best friend on this planet. In light of the vibe check, I feel like this is an appropriate story to share because it was our dorm orientation. It's freshman year of college. And I remember I saw this girl walk in, and you know those people where there's just a gravitational pull. I met so many people that day. And again, it was like that vibe in the vibe check where it's just kind of like surface level conversations and you're wondering who you're going to click with, who you're going to be able to have a conversation with that's not about the weather, right? And I was having a lot of those. We were all moving into the dorm. It was our first week of college. We didn't really know what to expect. And I just remember this girl walked in and I really noticed her. Like I remember the first time that I saw her, and I met so many people and I did not observe them. And I remember even just feeling comforted. I don't know what it was about her. I mean, from my vantage point, I do believe we have shared a past life because there was this energy of familiarity or feeling drawn to her. And overall, I just felt happy. I don't know what about her made me happy, but I just felt at peace. I was just like, that girl looks cool. I'm glad that girl's in the world. Before we're even friends, I thought that. And one day I was studying within the lounge on our dorm and I happened to see the wallpaper of her computer. And the wallpaper was over a pop star. I'm not going to share who because, you know, she might be embarrassed about it now, whatever. But the background was of a pop star. And this is embarrassing, but like I said, with Mercury square Pluto, I have to deep dive into something, okay? You got to keep this mind busy when you have Mercury square Pluto, and it's manifested in a lot of different obsessions, astrology being a lifelong one, but also little micro obsessions of just things I just get hyperfixated on. And my hyperfixation in high school was Britney Spears. I'm not kidding. I loved Britney Spears, was obsessed with Britney Spears. People from my high school would call me Britney. Like in my yearbook, it's so embarrassing. Everybody's like, love you, Britney. And I'm like, why did I make that my only personality trait? Like, I don't know. Something about diving into Britney lore just gave me peace. I don't know. And that wasn't her screen background, but it was a pop star like Britney. And I was like, okay, if you have somebody as the wallpaper, like you're in that stan, you're in that stan energy. You're kind of like me. And so I brought it up to her and she was trying to play it off. She was like, yeah, she's fine. I was like, girl, be real. Like, you have her as your background. But I just knew, I was like, this is someone that I could be friends with. Like this is so weird that we are literally college age women obsessing over pop stars who do not know us. So I wanted to be her friend and I wanted her to feel safe with me, to like open up about her obsession. Cause I was like, girl, I get it. I know you think it's weird and you're meeting all these people and you probably don't want to open up about this, but girl, open up to me. I get it. And we were walking and it happened to come up that we both listened to Lana Del Rey. The year was 2012. And we both happened to be mega fans of, for me, Britney and Lana, and for her, the pop star and Lana. So we had like our own obsessions of Britney and her pop star, and then the mutual obsession with Lana Del Rey. And then that gave her the safety and the clearance to like open up entirely. And I just remember talking with her for literal hours, just talking about this topic that we didn't feel safe to talk about with these people that we were meeting, because we're like, they're gonna think we're so weird, because we were weird, like whatever. But I think in the spirit of Libra season, with the Libra placements creating this square to Pluto, I think connection is just finding people whose weird syncs up with our weird. And me and my best friend found that within each other. And 11 years later, she's still my best friend. That's why you can say that they're silly or they're asinine, obsessing into the lore around a TV show or cosplaying, going to Renaissance fairs, or whatever your thing is. You can say it's asinine, you can say it's weird, what have you, but I think it's so pure. It's so pure to love something and to be able to connect with other people who also love that thing. And we have to be protective of that energy within our world. Because when I think about my obsessions, which like I've said, has been a lifelong pattern of behavior, and it's actually yielded a lot of good, a lot of friends, clearly my study of astrology, things of that nature. But the times that I spike and I deep dive into obsessions is always the times that I'm really going through it. And that's why my brain needs more fuel of something that I can just get lost in, something that's giving me at least a little bit of peace, a little bit of hope, a little bit of happiness, a little bit of feeling seen. And so it felt appropriate to make this the vibe check after last week, because like we were talking about last week was sort of that energy where there's an ending taking place. And yes, it's a beginning, it's an ending. And I had shared a story about a real low within my world. And for me, one of the major things where I was able to pull myself out of that space, and this has been how I've pulled myself out of all the other lows that I've experienced, the time I met my best friend most certainly being one, was through obsessing over something or diving into something that was at least giving me some hope and some peace and some happiness and some clarity, so that I wasn't allowing my mind to like really stew into the negativity that I was like surrounded by within those points in time. So I wanted to share this story because it's all about finding that glimmer of resonance, that glimmer of hope, that glimmer of interest. If you are navigating these eclipses in a real low, observing what is interesting you at this moment, what is giving you a little bit of happiness, what is giving you a little bit of feeling seen within another individual, and really like holding on to that. And with Mercury square Pluto, just as you navigate Friday, and really it lands pretty late, so you could absolutely feel this on Saturday morning as well. And by really late, I mean 5:51 p.m. It's not that late at all, but late dependent on where you are. So a lot of you could feel this Saturday morning as well. I would definitely say with Mercury square Pluto is give your mind lots of things to feed and munch in. And honestly, Pluto energy can go deep. It can assume a lot of knowledge. But again, like I was saying earlier, you could be at that company happy hour and getting really suspicious or really paranoid around, can I trust these people? Did I open up too much? Or fearing the worst case scenario around, oh my gosh, they're going to go to HR and they're going to tell them that I'm having relationship problems and they're going to fire me, and I haven't made up within my mind around why that's even plausible, but that's what I feel like is going to happen. So I just want you to know, with Mercury square Pluto, give yourself brain food, give yourself things that are interesting you, or areas of your life where you're experiencing that glimmer or that energy around feeling seen, feeling that your weird is synced up with others' weird. Being able to honestly, like, if there are Plutonian people within your life, like a friend, where you can just deep dive and talk about someone's latest album or whatever else that you guys want to like obsess over and chat about, like Mercury square Pluto might be helpful for that. Whether it's, you know, IRL or online or things of that nature. Again, this week we truly have to be the purveyors and the creators of our own sunshine, whatever that looks like. And I also want to say, with Mercury square Pluto, there could be some intense news that comes out on Friday that again might plunge you into that paranoid state or that freaked out state or anything of that nature. And I just want to highlight, when it comes to Mercury square Pluto, I know it's hard to like pivot within the moment, but if possible, to do a check-in point, to be like, okay, is this serving me? To deep dive into social media or deep dive into the news or deep dive into this, you know, Reddit community or what have you. Is this serving me? Like having that check-in point, because obviously we want to be informed, but plunging yourself into a state of despair and utter worry isn't necessarily helpful. Sometimes it's helpful just have that check-in point around, okay, I'm feeling full of dread and gloom. Let me take a moment to take a walk outside or pet my cat or anything of that nature. And I just want to say here, if astrology, my channel or otherwise, is ever bringing a lot of fear into your universe, give yourself permission to take a pause. Give yourself permission to take a step back. My intention is never to incite fear. My intention is never to freak you out. I simply just want to relay what the cosmos are doing so that you feel more seen and more empowered with what it is that you're moving through. But if my words are ever hitting you in a way where it's filling you with a lot of fear and a lot of dread, my love, feel free to take a step back. You know, I'll always be here welcoming you back in when it feels in alignment. But I want you to have that check-in point around, is this bringing hope or clarity or joy into my world, whether it's my channel or other people's channel. Just with Mercury square Pluto, have that check-in point. Maybe even set alarms on your phone, like every so often on Friday, to have that check-in point around, okay, what am I reading? What am I consuming? What am I viewing? And is it bringing good into my life? Because like I said, with Mercury square Pluto, it could be deep diving into an obsession that's bringing community, an obsession that's allowing us to learn a skill, an obsession that's helping us deep dive into a project at work, a research project, or something of that nature. But having that check-in point around, am I fearing the worst case scenario? Is this content truly helping my perspective within this moment? Because Pluto can be this energy around obsession and going really deep into topics. And so just having that moment to pull yourself out of it, to put, you know, the phone and magazine down for a moment and call a friend, ground down into something real. Because a lot of times when we kind of get into that mental space, it can feel more real than our outside world. So it's helpful with all the ground earth trine energy to ground down into something real. Bake a scone, call a friend, pet a cat, anything that anchors you into your physical body, into your physical existence is helpful to kind of navigate this energy. As well as if you're working on Friday, if you have your own business, Friday is a great day to just get lost into a project. Ooh, I love that energy when you just get into a tunnel because you're just in that flow state around working on this project, bringing your vision to life. You haven't checked your phone in hours. You haven't, eaten in hours. Definitely make sure with all the earth energy in the cosmos, make sure you're eating and drinking water. But it's such an exciting space to be when you're just so excited about what you are focusing on or the message that you're getting out that you just get lost within it. And again, it can be helpful because if you're somebody where if you're too idle, your mind starts to concoct all of these potential hypotheses and something of that nature. Sometimes it's helpful to just have something that you get lost in, just to take a break from whatever is feeling heavy within your world at this moment. On Saturday, October 21st, early in the morning at 7:01 a.m. PDT, we have Sun now squaring Pluto. And Sun is our ego. It is our identity. It is our I am energy. And as I highlighted earlier, Libra is not necessarily a sign that is necessarily thriving in the I am energy, right? And so the sun is in its fall here. And so with the square to Pluto, there's something around our sense of self or our identity that's feeling malleable, that's feeling changeable in some sense. And I wanted to make this vibe check a new job, because sometimes our literal title changes at a new job, where it's like, I used to be defined as operations assistant, and now I'm operations manager. And even just stepping into that new role with that new title promotes this shift around how it is that you identify yourself. You used to be like, hi, I'm Haley, I'm the operations assistant. And now it's, hi, I'm Haley, I'm the operations manager, which PS, I'm not that. And I never have been that, but I don't even know what I would be operating. I'm not qualified. But when it comes to Sun square Pluto, there's a shift. And maybe it's not a job title for you, but maybe it's just a core way around how you've always viewed yourself. Like, I've always viewed myself like this, because a big topic of conversation last week was this energy around no longer putting up with things that you used to put up with. And that shift takes time. And I want you to grant yourself that time all eclipse season, and honestly beyond, that time to adjust to this new normal around, okay, now that I don't put up with this behavior, what is it that I put up with? Who is it that I am? I used to be Haley, the one who's always there at your beck and call. And now it's Haley, the girl with boundaries? Like, question mark? Like, sometimes it takes time for us to get used to this new normal and to see ourselves differently, because there's a lot of power around how it is that you see yourself. We talked a lot last week about seeing yourself within your true value. And with Sun square Pluto, it's like, okay, now that I am no longer accepting this art appraisers undervaluing me, I have to see myself as that Picasso, and that takes time. And with Sun square Pluto, it really asks you, how have I been defining myself, and is it serving me? Are there certain ways that I have defined myself, given myself a title, that are no longer aligning for me? And maybe I don't have clarity around, now I'm Haley, the girl who, what? I don't know what, but I know what I'm not. And sometimes it does us a lot of good when we do distance ourselves from what it is that we are no longer. That can do a lot of good within our world. I've always been a writer, and that's always been something that's very been core to my identity, is that I am a writer. Like, since I was 5, and I wrote my first short story, Helen Pert. It was about a girl who didn't have a heart. She just had fire within her. And I don't know where I was going with that metaphor, but I was very young writing stories. Like, I really never said I was going to be an astrologer, even though I really loved astrology. I always said I was going to be a writer. And that was something I really defined myself as. And my favorite kind of writing was essentially the writing that I would do in the depths of my suffering, honestly, to be real with you. I think I had some sort of idea within my mind that to be a writer, I had to be miserable, or to be a true artist, you have to be miserable. Because truly, the times that I was miserable, writing was what I used to staunch the bleeding of being within that space. It was the only thing that made me feel better, was to write about it, or to at least get a short story about it, or something of that nature. And it wasn't leading me down a good path, seeing myself as Haley, the tortured soul, the writer. And listen, I know, like, girl, be real. It's short stories that you're writing on Medium for 70 people. Like, I swear to you, you are okay. You are not a tortured soul. Like, but I really saw myself like that. And because I saw myself like that, I put myself in situations that were not the best for my well-being. I entered into relationships. That was the main, essentially, muse of writing, was being in these very messed up relationships. And I wrote my best when I was in these very messed up relationships, which led me to screaming in a car, as I talked about last week, and other sort of situations that were not good. And for me, I was like, well, this is good because I'm writing about it. And I really had to get real with myself, because I had this worldview and this view of myself that I was this tortured soul, that I could only create and write when I was in the depths of my suffering, typically ensnared in some sort of toxic relationship. That was the only time that I would write. And I really had to get real with myself and have this moment where I was like, is this bringing more harm than good into my experience? Like, sure, I'm writing a lot and I'm building somewhat of a following and making some money off of it, but at what cost? At what cost? Like, I was not doing well. I was not doing well. And so I really had to redefine how I viewed myself. And I no longer saw myself as someone who had to be tortured in order to write. And honestly, this is a little sad, I guess, but I stopped seeing myself as a writer. I haven't really wrote since that kind of title change. But even that title change around no longer seeing myself as this tortured soul who had to be in these sort of dynamics in order to feel inspired, in order to write, helped me shift into a more healthy direction for me. I'm not saying, if any of you writers out there, I'm not saying it's something that by its own definition brings in darkness into your life. It was more so me viewing myself as I'm this writer. And so I was magnetized towards these individuals that I thought would be good for the art. What's bad for the heart is good for the art. But again, I'm canceling that narrative within myself. And I started to essentially shift who I was. And yes, it was a grieving, certainly. Like, that's something since I was 5. I was like, I'm a writer. Like, girl, could you even write at 5? Maybe I was 7. I don't know. Whatever age you could start writing, I was writing. I had a typewriter. Anytime anyone asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I want to be a writer. And so it was weird sitting in the in-between where I'm like, if I'm not a writer, who am I? What do I like to do? How do I define myself? And that took time. So I want you to know, with Sun Scorp Pluto, you could be feeling this crumbling of old sense of self or of old identity around, I am not this person's friend anymore, or like, I am not this person's partner. Like, I just want to say, if anyone's going through a breakup, that can be such a disruption to your identity, because there is this in between where it's like, if I'm not with you, who am I? And I want to let you know it's okay to be like sitting in the question mark, like you are in the process of co-creating the person that you are and the person that you will become. And it's okay not to have the big picture clarity around who that is. And like I said, just grabbing onto, I don't know who I am. I don't see myself as a writer any longer, but I know that this feels good, or I know that I'm enjoying studying about this, or I know that this friendship is feeling good, or whatever is sharpening into focus. So it's okay to be within the in-between. It's okay to look at ways that you've always defined yourself and question, is this bringing more harm than good into my experience? And am I ready to let this go if it is not? If seeing myself as the one who's always there for everyone else, or seeing myself as, the tortured artiste, or seeing myself as one who's always on call for everyone's problems. If these definitions no longer align for you, feel free to let them go. It's safe now to let them go. And you might not have the exact title around what it is that you're stepping into. Maybe you're still getting comfortable introducing yourself as Haley Operations Manager, or Haley Astrologer, not writer, or what have you, whatever the title shift is within your world. But allow yourself to sit in that contrast around what's no longer serving you, what is potentially bringing more harm than good into your experience, because that contrast does bring clarity. Knowing what it is that you do not define yourself as does allow you to take one step closer to what will. So it's okay to sit within the in-between. And to a practical level, on Saturday, you could be dealing with people who are trying to lord their power and their control over you. With Sun Square Pluto, there could be people who just literally want to feel powerful, and so they want to feel powerful by way of making you feel small. There could be people with egos that are astronomical, okay? And there can be this kind of feeling of just kind of power struggle and tension kind of encasing Saturday around people trying to tell you what to do, or criticizing how it is that you are, or trying to define you themselves. And maybe this is something that's reaching a breaking point, a tension of somebody who's trying to lord their power over you, or something of that nature, reaching a point of tension or even crisis. We do have the first quarter moon on Saturday. So whether you're observing this within somebody else trying to control you, trying to tell you what to do, maybe you're just feeling this crisis point within your own world around, who am I? What am I doing? What's going on? Mercury does enter Scorpio later in the day. So for the majority of Saturday, it is at the anaretic degree, the 29th degree, which does give the sensation of urgency. So you could be a little freaked out around, okay, I don't see myself as somebody who lives in Milwaukee any longer. Now I have to see myself as someone who lives in Minneapolis, or what have you. Maybe there's like a literal move and you're having to get used to, redefining yourself in that way. With this energy of Mercury at the anaretic degree, you could feel like you have to rush this step around assimilating to a new city, feeling like you need to figure out all the spots and figure out all of your new friends and like step into this new life while you're still grieving the old one. Like, there's an energy of like crisis and and urgency sort of baked into Saturday's astrology. And it's okay if you're feeling those emotions, but also just know like things take time. Transformation takes time. Adjusting to this new title or this new way of life or this new way of being takes time. And so granting yourself the space and the grace for it to take some time. So yes, with Sun square Pluto, there could be this energy around, I don't know who I am now that I'm in this new city, now that I'm in this new job, now that I'm no longer in this relationship, who am I? And having this crisis energy around, what do I grab onto? What will stabilize me? But there's also this sweetness coming in on Saturday if we allow ourselves to slow down and to savor the sweetness around, in my earlier example, rather than running around feeling like you have to find all of your new spots and all of your new friends in Minneapolis, allowing yourself to just walk around the neighborhood and just be like, oh, well, I'm a Minneapolis resident now. Let me just walk and see what it is that I find and really savor the sweetness. Like, it's okay to go slow. And I didn't speak about Venus trine Jupiter earlier, I'm realizing. And I think I didn't because Venus is not dignified in Virgo. So the blessings of these two benefics making a harmonious angle, I'll be real with you, it might feel a little muted. It might feel a little understatement. It might be in something so little or so minor or just a small pleasure in the act of living, but it is there. And like I said, we have to be the purveyors of our own sunshine, of our own positivity, especially when things feel so dark and feel so intense. And just with Venus trine Jupiter, it's reminding you that yes, there might have been certain things that fell away. Your old work bestie, your old friends in Wisconsin, your old relationship, what have you. But I want you to know there are people that have not even met you who will love you. Of course, with eclipse season and with that solar eclipse in Libra, like relationships and partnerships truly could have been highlighted to you around certain connections that are departing, and it is sad. It is a grieving, but I want you to know there's still so much love around you and ahead for you. And with Venus trine Jupiter, it's like really sharing and spreading the love in big ways and in small ways. I would say with Saturday, this might be an excellent date night with Venus trine Jupiter, like savoring the sweetness with your loved one, with a partner, like taking time and space to celebrate life and celebrate your connection. So if you guys have been waiting to, bring out the nice bottle of wine, or if you've been waiting to try that new restaurant, like we don't necessarily always need an excuse to celebrate. Like I think with Pluto stationing mid-month and with eclipse season, it reminds us just the urgency of life and the urgency to just grab these moments. Just as so much is shifting, it's important to savor and grab onto and look for reasons to celebrate and look for sweetness around you. And I feel like that's a major message with Venus trine Jupiter. These blessings might be a little understated. You could experience this certainly in gain in finances or something of that nature, good news financially. Like I said, Venus is in Virgo. Okay, so it's a little understated, but it's sensual, it's earthy. It's not so much blessings that come through within the most major news ever, but it's in something that just adds a little bit of sweetness, adds a little bit of enjoyment in part of our daily living, and looking for excuses to enjoy our daily routine, looking for excuses to enjoy the people that we are walking through life with, looking for excuses to feel more connected to the people around us is really the part of this. And so Venus trine Jupiter exacts at 9:32 p.m. So you could also be feeling a sweet energy moving into Sunday morning. How lovely is that? And another essentially ingress that happens Saturday night is that Mercury enters Scorpio. And this happens around 11 p.m. PDT. So for a lot of you, this will very well happen on Sunday. And with Mercury sinking into Scorpio, this gives a more shrewd, strategic way of processing the world. We could be really favoring this depth. So honestly, with the energy of Venus trine Jupiter and Mercury entering Scorpio, it's a great time to go for a date with your partner, or maybe just do something small, make dinner and bake dessert or something. And like with Mercury and Scorpio, like asking them, what terrifies you? Or what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want your opening line to be in your obituary? Like, Mercury and Scorpio can sometimes be morbid, but it's things that get to the core, of why it is that we're here and what matters to us, right? Because I will say with Mercury in Libra the past couple of weeks, maybe not so much when it was squaring Pluto, but other than that, Mercury in Libra, it's around how can we connect? How can we create balance within our conversation? And with Mercury in Scorpio, it's really like, how can we create meaning? How can we talk about what we're not talking about here? And really savoring those connections that you can go deep with, right? Someone who's weird syncs up with your weird, who doesn't find your questions too bizarre, doesn't find your obsessions too eccentric or what have you. Someone who you're able to kind of savor that intimacy with. And so I would say with that shift, maybe a more private date night would be good, just to really like gaze at one another's eyes and ask each other these deeper questions. But most certainly expect with Mercury now transiting Scorpio, you could expect this desire to really want to sink into the depth, ask yourself really intense questions around what it is that you want out of life, be really plunging into your own psychology or things that help you understand your psyche, tools such as, astrology, numerology, psychology, things of that nature. And when it comes to connections, you could be really wanting to get to the core of what matters and what means something. So lunar aspects on Saturday, a little after midnight, really at 1:07 a.m., the moon in Capricorn will square Chiron. And again, with this occurring, and we still have Mercury square Pluto separating, the beginning of the day, there can be some paranoia, or really with the energy of the Capricorn moon grappling with energy around, I should be doing more, I should be being more. Because with the energy of Libra sun, there could be this energy around essentially observing certain connections of your life that are falling away, whether people are moving away or just kind of moving on with their lives. And with the energy of Capricorn moon being like, why is everybody else moving and I'm staying still? Or maybe you're observing this within someone gets a promotion or something and you're like so happy for them, but you're also like, but what does that say about me? Like there could just be energies where you're just feeling insecurity, kind of like insecurity is sort of like plucked at around ways that you don't feel like you're keeping up with everyone else. And just reminding yourself like there is no competition, just focus on being the best that you can be. But sometimes the energy of Capricorn moon, we can be guilting ourselves or blaming ourselves around, you should be doing more, you should be being more. Maybe that's the crisis that you're navigating with the last quarter moon building within the sky. But we do have some nice energy to reach towards. We have the Capricorn moon trining Uranus and Taurus, so great time to do something earthy, something that grounds you into your physical body, gets you out of here. That's another tip with Mercury square Pluto, move your body, okay? Connect to your body, get out of your mind is huge with Mercury square Pluto. And then the Capricorn moon sextiles Neptune. So rather than putting energy into what could go wrong, what could go right? What could go right? Reel in that obsessive Plutonian energy around, okay, let's not ruminate over the worst case scenario, how this person's going to leave me. Let me think about what it is that's feeling really good within our relationship or wherever that energy is kind of taking you this week. The moon does conjoin Pluto at 7:33 p.m. And so when it comes to the date night that I spoke earlier, because yes, Venus is trining Jupiter, this is expansion of good things, of pleasure, of enjoyment, of love, but definitely just with Mercury's ingress and with Moon, Pluto, I wouldn't say a first date. I'm talking about someone that you really can go intimate, really can go deep with, because sometimes Moon on Pluto can put us into more intense space, whether we are freaking out around, everyone around me is getting married and I'm not, like what's wrong with me? I need to make this first date work or whatever. Like sometimes it can just plunge us into like intense places emotionally, but it can be helpful to essentially go deep with a partner, talk about your fears and your deepest desires and your deepest secrets and all of the things. And the last quarter moon is at 11 p.m. And like I said, that's sort of this crisis point. It's a check-in from last week's Libra solar eclipse. Make sure to check out that video below. And it's a check-in point to building to the Taurus lunar eclipse, which should be an interesting one. So you're going to want to get dialed in with that energy. We'll of course talk about it next week. And then at 11 p.m., the Capricorn moon squares off with Mercury in Libra, and they're both at the anaretic degree. So again, there's this urgency around, I need to make a decision now, or there's this battle between the head and the heart around, I want to do this, but this would make sense. And again, clarity is not here. I want to highlight this because when we talk about the Cazimi, when we talk about the superior conjunction, Mercury is being reborn. And at that moment of the Cazimi, something can be made apparent and clear. But the thing is that Mercury, now that the Cazimi has exacted, now Mercury is moving away from the sun. It's moving at a faster pace than the sun. It enters Scorpio before the sun does, and a new story is being reborn. But when it comes to Mercury's journey, it has not essentially cleared the light of the sun. It's technically combust. And if you haven't heard that term, it's basically Mercury burning up in the sun's rays. What does this mean for you? It means that sometimes there's not a lot of clarity. Like again, I was saying with Mercury square Pluto, we could be freaking out about things that are not rooted within reality, right? We could be striving to make a decision when we don't even know all of the answers yet. So the biggest thing I will say is just don't rush, especially with the Capricorn moon, like first quarter moon. Don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses or that everybody else is doing this and you have to keep up. Like Mercury is still combust, so you could be freaking yourself out about things that aren't even fully fleshed out. Like you could be freaking out being like, oh my gosh, all of my friends are getting married, what about me? And not even realize like, wait, I don't actually want to get married right now. Like I have all these other cool things that I'm doing. Like I'm fine. Like sometimes with Mercury burning up in the light of the sun, clarity or perspective can feel burnt up. And also watch your mouth, okay? With Mercury at the anaretic degree, you know, Libra is pretty measured, but sometimes there could be an energy of like urgency or needing to get something out, or with the moon squaring Mercury being an energy where you're bothered emotionally and you're letting people know about it, okay? That can be an unintended side effect of this energy. And then the moon will be void at 11 p.m. and it enters Aquarius at 11:06. Bring our awareness to big picture humanity. And then Mercury enters Scorpio around 11:46 p.m. So of course that'll be early Sunday for a lot of you. On Sunday, the 22nd, we have Mercury trine Saturn. So like I said, Mercury's combust, so we don't have all the answers. But with the trine to Saturn, it's grounding down into what it is that you know for sure. At this moment in time, like I said, with Mercury combust, we're not necessarily so dialed into all the facts and the figures and the insights and the clarity on what we want, who we are, all of the things. But with Mercury trine Saturn, there could be this energy around, okay, I'm not married, but I know that this is feeling good, or I'm excited about building this, or I want my legacy to be this. Like with Mercury trine Saturn, we can be talking ourselves down from the Mercury square Pluto around like, okay, my partner is not going to leave me, or like, okay, my business isn't going to fail. Like we could be kind of like talking ourselves down, like with Mercury trine Saturn, maybe like affirmations that are allowing ourselves to feel grounded, or sometimes even talking ourselves through the facts of the situation around, okay, here's this reason that it's not plausible. Like I said, with the running note with my phone, here's these other ungrounded fears and suspicions that I had that never came into fruition. Maybe it's grounding down around, okay, I'm feeling freaked out because I have these symptoms and I've been deep diving into WebMD for the last couple hours. With the trine to Saturn, it's like, but these symptoms are also aligned with this common cold. And I don't have these other symptoms that's saying that this rare disease has. And the likelihood of acquiring this is very, very low. Like sometimes having those facts to pull yourself out of that paranoid or suspicious state of mind, okay, that sometimes Mercury in Scorpio can be a little predisposition towards, okay, something that you're going to be mindful of moving forward. But what I also want to say, this is great for focus. Like I said, Mercury in Scorpio goes deep. So you can feel like you're able to kind of lose yourself within a project. And with trine to Saturn, losing yourself in a project that's building your future. And sometimes you don't have that clarity, again, Mercury combust, that it is building your future. Like you could be building your future and you don't even know it. You just think it's an obsession, something that you're diving into. But people take things that they love and they get obsessed with and make it into their dream, into their reality all of the time. And certainly with Saturn, it might take hard work, but I truly believe a higher vibration of Saturn in Pisces is really making our dreams manifest in physical reality. And you may not know that your obsessions are paving the way towards your future. I most certainly did not. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I never consciously made the decision to be an astrologer. You know what my childhood dream always was and what the direction I thought my life was going to take. I just thought astrology was my nerdy little hobby that I would just obsess about and stay up late just digesting every single book I could get my hands on late at night within my room in my little astro cave. I just thought it was my nerdy little hobby that was giving me something to focus on that wasn't the despair that was alive within my world. I didn't know I was building my future. And sometimes you don't know in the thick of it. All you know is like, it's feeling good for me to read astrology books, or this job advert looks interesting. Like you never know how you're building your future. And I'll say to a practical level, it could be a great day to study, to organize, to plan. Saturn has that very methodical, essentially realistic, pragmatic worldview. And with Mercury using our thoughts in order to build our future, the future that we know of, and maybe even the future we don't know of yet. And with this happening in water signs, allowing your intuition to guide the way around what's interesting me right now. What am I feeling drawn to right now? who am I feeling drawn to right now? And then the Aquarius moon does square Mars in Scorpio. So definitely with Mercury and Mars now both in Scorpio, definitely anchor into the art of alchemy. And when we talk about alchemy, it's just turning something from one form into another. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, you know, base metals. It could also be taking a negative emotion, like for me, all of this drama that I used to experience, and turning it into an art form and turning it into a short story. Or it can be an energy around taking a bad mood or someone who really frustrated you and turning it into a great workout, right? It's all about how it is that we transform something that might not be the best into something at least somewhat positive or bring some good into our life. And I just want to say, with the energy of the moon squaring off with Mars, there might be something that's frustrating you, bothering you on Sunday. And again, with the energy of Mars and Scorpio, noticing how it is that you can put this into your project or into your art or into a workout, how it is that you can transmute and transform this emotion. And then with the Aquarius moon squaring off with Jupiter in Taurus, just be mindful of excess of, you know, eating or indulging or anything of that nature. You know, Mercury trine Jupiter is still separating. So definitely enjoy the simple things, enjoy the beauty, enjoy the love that is within your universe, but just ensure that you're not detaching yourself so much from the emotions that are wanting to come through, because sometimes that can be an attempt to like want to nourish ourselves and not necessarily process or feel the emotions that we're trying to feel. The moon's in Aquarius, which of course can take a little bit more a detached approach to what it is that we're feeling. So just sitting within that moment, that questioning around what is it that I'm truly trying to essentially nourish at this moment in time, and will this nourish me truly? So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is I am being reborn. Of course, it's appropriate with all of the Pluto energy that we are navigating, but as well as Mercury being reborn in the superior conjunction. It really is this new start as it relates to Mercury. And I just want to highlight for my fellow astro nerds, it is debated whether or not Mercury's new cycle starts with the inferior conjunction, which we experienced last month, or with the superior conjunction, which we're experiencing this week. And you could take on whichever resonates, but one thing is for sure, a rebirth is occurring. The Mercury is being purified by the light of the sun and starting some sort of new journey. And with the energy of Pluto, we are literally destroying and breaking down old ways of seeing the world. With Mercury square Pluto, old ways of communicating, old ways of seeing ourselves. And that in between is uncomfortable. If I'm not a writer, who am I? If I'm not your wife, who am I? If I'm not operations assistant, who am I? And it's okay to sit within the question mark, to sit within the in-between, because you are being reborn. And when we talk about Scorpio energy, it's about the phoenix, right? Around being able to rise up from the ashes. And we're going through a reinvention. You've likely been through some reinventions before, and you will arise even more gloriously, even more resilient, even more powerful, even more actualized within this iteration. So trust in the rebirth. Obviously, if you think about a phoenix bursting into flames, right? That's scary. Sometimes things do have to kind of burn away within our life, and it's scary around this was comfortable, but I'm stepping into a new me. I'm stepping into a new environment. But if anything, eclipses remind us the only direction that we can go is forward. We cannot go back. So trust that just as Mercury is being reborn, you, my love, are being reborn as well. So let me know below, what's your eclipse season vibe? What's your eclipse season mood? And if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and let me know by dropping a flame emoji next to the eagle emoji. There's no phoenix emoji, so that's going to have to do for now. And if you are on a desktop or you just like playing a little wordplay game, go ahead and put the word phoenix or the word eagle into a sentence. I always love seeing what you guys come up with. So my Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay